If you saw my last video, you know the vented dipstick is a complete failure, but not for the reasons you might have initially thought. Well, I decided to take a completely different approach for venting the crankcase, and it's working great. Let's check it out. How's it going, everybody? In today's video, I'm going to tell you about the solution that I came up with for venting the crankcase on my 2019 Harley-Davidson Street Bob FXBB using the transmission top cover. So far, this solution is working great. It only takes a few parts to do, and I'm really happy with the way it's come out. So in my last video, I gave you all the details on how I tried a vented dipstick do-it-yourself project for the Softail Street Bob. The dipstick itself worked fine, but the problem I ran into is that with hard acceleration and cornering, too much oil just sloshes back into the oil tank and ends up going up through the dipstick and up through the hose and out the filter, and it just makes a big mess. So no matter what I tried, I just couldn't get around that issue. So I scrapped the vented dipstick idea and was looking for an alternate solution. I came across another company who had a very promising solution. Unfortunately, that fell through right around the time that Trask released their transmission top cover venting solution for the Milwaukee 8 motors. So I got to looking at the Trask solution and I really love it. I think it's a great solution. I think it has a lot of merit. And I thought, you know what? I think I can do this myself. Let me give it a shot. By the way, if you're new here, my name is 𝗧𝗔𝗕𝗟𝗘𝗡, and here on this channel I tackle projects of all sizes related to the bikes I ride, and I give you information about those projects and try to share as many of my learnings as I can. So if you're new here, please do consider subscribing, hitting that notification bell, and enabling all notifications so you'll be alerted whenever I post future videos. So why do we even care about venting these Milwaukee 8 motors? Well, the issue is they're really known for producing a lot of blow-by. And the reason for that is that the crankcase itself is not vented, and these motors displace a lot of air. So when that air has nowhere to go, at times you'll get a vacuum, at times you'll get pressure, and the venting of the crankcase will alleviate that, or at least greatly reduce that, so that you get reduced blow-by and you just allow the engine to breathe a little bit easier, and thereby theoretically will allow the engine to spin a little bit freer and probably produce more power. I got to see firsthand just how bad that blow-by issue is when I took a look at my Arla Nest Monster Sucker intake, and I give you all the details on that and what I did to address that in the video that I'll link to here. So if you want all the information on that, be sure to check out that video. So as I mentioned, when the Trask solution was introduced, I got really excited about it because I really like the approach that they took on that. And they are using the transmission top cover. So why does that matter, and what are the benefits of using the transmission top cover? If you take a look at the top of the transmission, you're going to see that there are basically 3 compartments in that area right beneath the top cover. 2 of those compartments are for the transmission itself and allow that transmission to vent out to the open air so that there's no pressure buildup in the transmission. But that 3rd section allows the crankcase to vent into the oil tank. Almost as if Harley had planned to put a vent there, but for some reason, they weren't able to. One of the things I like about venting from this area is the fact that it's up really high. So the issue that I've had and others have had with oil sloshing back in the tank and then going up through the vent hose and things like that won't be an issue with this, because that is like the highest point on the top of the transmission above the oil tank. So there's no way any oil is going to slosh back up into that area. And it's already designed to vent the crankcase pressure into the oil tank so that it has somewhere to go. So it really is a great location to put a crankcase vent. One other thing to keep in mind is that the Trask solution uses a reed valve in the top of their cover so that you allow there to be a vacuum within the crankcase, but you allow excess pressure to be vented out. I'm still debating whether or not there needs to be a check valve of any sort in the crankcase venting solution. Now, people who know more about these motors than I do have said that that helps pull the oil down into the oil tank when there is a vacuum in the crankcase, which is why the Trask solution and other crankcase venting solutions out there have some sort of a valve in it to allow the pressure to escape, but to maintain a vacuum when that happens. So that being said, I went ahead and used a check valve in the solution that I implemented, but I'm still kind of wondering whether or not that's really necessary. So if you have any info on that, drop in a comment and let me know. I'd love to know more about that. I've done a bit of research on it, and I figured it's certainly not going to hurt to put a check valve in place, because it's definitely going to allow that pressure to blow out of there, and ease the crankcase pressure in general. So I was willing to try it out with a check valve and see how it went. I will give you a full list of parts that I used on this project a little bit later on in the video, so hang tight for that, or you can use the links in the video description to jump ahead to that portion of the video if you'd like to. That being said, let me tell you how to tackle this project. Make sure you wipe everything down before you start. That way you won't drop any debris down inside the transmission or the crankcase once you take that top cover off. So I started out by removing both of the side covers to give myself as much extra space as possible as I was maneuvering around behind that rear cylinder. On the left side of the street bob, there's an oil return line that is right in the way of where I needed to work on this side cover. So I decided to disconnect that line so I could get to that. Just be aware if you do that there will be oil that comes out of that return line. I didn't expect there to be, but there was a decent amount that came out. So make sure you have something handy to catch that oil so you can avoid making the mess that I made. Then I put a plug in the end of that oil return hose and I put a cap on top of the oil return line and gently tucked that oil return hose out of the way so that I could get in there a little bit more easily. And then at that point, I had pretty good access to the transmission top cover itself. It turns out that a little mini ratchet works pretty good for getting in there and taking those different bolts loose. Even with that mini ratchet, I found that I had to break the bolts loose with an Allen wrench and then use the little mini ratchet to back them out the rest of the way. And I had to try every different angle possible, both sides of the bike, under the exhaust, over the exhaust. I mean, you name it. I had to try every conceivable angle to try to get those bolts out. Honestly, that was the longest part of this process, is getting the bolts in and out of this top cover. It's really simple, but man, is it a pain to get to. I then grabbed that top cover and slid it out, and I was immediately disappointed to learn that it's a plastic top cover. Come on, Harley. Anyway, once you get that top cover off, you'll see that it is divided to match the compartments that are in the top of the transmission itself. I then cleaned up the cover and gently removed that gasket so I wouldn't damage it while I was working on the project. Took a few measurements to figure out where I wanted to drill that hole, marked it, and drilled it, and I actually got it in the right place this time. So let me pause here and give you the short list of parts you need to knock out this project. A 3/16 inch bulkhead hose barb fitting, red Loctite, a few feet of 3/16 inch fuel line or vent hose, a 3/16 inch to 3/8 inch hose barb adapter, a uni breather filter, and a check valve. And for the check valve, I've tried about 6 different ones. I'm pretty happy with my latest choice, so I may not need to look any further than that, but just know that in the video description, I will have the link to whatever the best check valve is that I've found up to this point for this project. So if you have any recommendations on that, or you found any check valves that work great for a project like this, drop in a comment and let me know about those. I would certainly love as much information on that as I can find. I did have one of the check valves completely fail in the process of trying to test it out, so don't use the Dorman check valve, and I'll have the details on that one here. Again, avoid that one. It's definitely not a good fit for this project. I then installed the bulkhead fitting in the hole I drilled in the transmission top cover, and I used red Loctite so there'd be no chance that this would come out. Also, I checked, and the hardware that was on the back side of that bulkhead fitting are actually too big to fit through the orifices in the top of that transmission case. So that's just a bit of extra insurance, but I still wanted to use the red Loctite just to have no doubt whatsoever. I let that red Loctite cure for a full 24 hours. I then reinstalled the gasket and then reinstalled the top cover back on the bike. Of course, it was just as challenging to reinstall it, trying to get to all those bolts and having to go at every angle possible to get everything tightened back up. But just be patient with it, you'll get through it eventually. I then connected the vent hose to the hose barb, ran the hose up and behind the left side cover, and found a place that I wanted to put that check valve, cut it, installed the check valve, and then I dropped that hose down to the swing arm pivot to the same place that I put the little pod breather for the Arlen Ness external breather mod. Added a few zip ties to hold everything in place, installed the side covers, and then it was time for the moment of truth. Fired it up, checked it out, everything ran great. Then went out for a test ride, checked it out a little bit more. Everything's still looking great. So at this point, I've ridden the bike probably a dozen times. I've had no problems whatsoever. Well, does it make the bike run better? I'm gonna say that it does. Maybe it's subjective, maybe it's the placebo effect. It feels like the bike is peppier, it feels like it revs a little bit easier. And to me, it just feels like it's got a little bit more than it had before. So I'm gonna say, yeah, I think it does help. I'm really happy with it so far, especially in combination with the external breather mod that I did on the Arlen Ness Monster Sucker intake. One other cool aspect about this particular solution is that it's basically invisible. Once you put the side covers back on, you can't even see where the hose barb comes out of that transmission top cover. I love the fact that it's just there and it works and it just does its job. Drop in a comment and let me know if you've tried the Trask solution, or if you try to do it yourself crankcase venting solution, or have you known anyone else who's tried this, and what have you seen? What results have you come across on this? And do you have any other ideas on how we might be able to do a solution like this differently? I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear what your experiences have been, and I'd love any input you have on this particular project. If I run into any issues in the future, I'll certainly post those and let you know what I found. But up to this point, it's been working really, really well. If you found this video beneficial or informational, please hit the thumbs up button and share it with your friends. That really helps the channel out a lot. I appreciate it when you do that. And if you're new here, please do consider subscribing, hitting that notification bell, and enabling all notifications so you'll be alerted whenever I post new videos. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy the ride. I'll see you next time.